Good morning, hello, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the Literacy Symposium, our last day, and our session this morning, Lose the Rules, Reading and Spelling Multi-Syllable Words Made Easy with Michael Hunter. My name is Andra Bell, and I am joined by my colleague, Kim Jenkins, and we are excited to facilitate this session for everyone. A few housekeeping items before the session starts. The PowerPoint handout is located in the Schoology folder for this session. This session is 75 minutes long and will be recorded. The chat feature will be off between participants, but you will be able to chat with us if you have any needs. Please keep your video feature off and mute yourself to eliminate any potential distractions to the presentation. The presenter will answer, if time, some questions at the end or throughout if time allows. We would love for you to tweet out or share on social media all you are learning from the symposium. The hashtag for the Patent Literacy Symposium is hashtag PA LitSymposium2020. And now I would like to introduce you to Michael Hunter. In 2001, Michael's focus shifted from concrete construction to concrete instruction when he left his position as president of his company to pursue a career in helping students learn to read using the most effective methods available. His passion for teaching struggling readers grew from volunteering to teach adults to read in Washington, D.C. Methods traditionally used in adult education did not work, so he looked for other programs. Michael was fortunate to meet Dr. Louisa Moats, who steered him toward explicit, structured, systematic instruction that was immediately effective. He now enjoys all his opportunities to assist learning readers of any age and ability level. Michael is co-author with Linda Farrell of Phonics Blitz, first edition, Phonics Boost, and the Diagnostic Decoding Surveys. We welcome you, Michael Hunter. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is an exciting and challenging morning. This is my first full-fledged webinar, so bear with me, but I'm excited to be here. Are we ready to talk about reading and spelling multi-syllable words? If you have, whoops, why am I not, sorry. Already having a technical difficulty. There we go. Okay. If you have access to the handouts, I'm going to give you quickly a key to our slides. If you see a red title at the top of the slide on the screen, that slide will not be in the handout packet. That's intentional. This one is not in the handout packet. If the slide has a purple title, it should be in the packet and you'll have it. We try to put most every slide in except a couple of housekeeping and some answer slides. Our primary objectives today are to make sure that you understand the importance of learning to hear, blend, and segment syllables before students learn to read and spell multi-syllable words, and then reading single-syllable words accurately before teaching the techniques. So, and then I want to show you our techniques for reading and spelling multi-syllable words without a whole bunch of rules, which is the goal here. So to get us started, we're going to try this. I normally do this obviously live. I would have a volunteer do this and all the rest of us would watch, but since we can't do that today, I'm going to ask you to be your own volunteer. And I want you to read a word. I'm going to put a word up on the screen. I want you to try reading it out loud. And just pay attention to how you read the word. Then I'll give you a second word to read, and I want you to pay attention to that one. So are you ready to read a word? Here it is. Okay, now let's do the same thing. Read this next word aloud and pay attention to what you do to read this word. Okay, did you notice the difference? When you read the second word, perhaps, did you try to sound out each letter before you read the word aloud? Did you read syllable by syllable, perhaps? Did you think about syllable rules? Open, closed, divide between the vowel and the consonant, etc. did you play with the pronunciation? Did you try one pronunciation? Maybe that's it, maybe it's not. I'm presume for most of you that was the second word was not a word that you've read before. The first word you've read who knows how many times. That is a sight word for you, and normally what happens when someone reads that word, they see it, they read it, and it's as fast as anything. The second word, however, if you are not familiar with that word, most likely what you did, if we were listening to you, we would have heard you read syllable by syllable. I don't think anyone would have sounded out each letter. There's too many letters to sound out, you'd get lost. But you chunked it visually without thinking about it and read. We might have heard you read syllable by syllable, and we might have heard you play with the pronunciation because you're not sure how to pronounce it. So the word is pronounced sesquipedalian. You might have said something similar to that, but not quite. And I'm sure it is a real word. You may be wondering what a sesquipedalian is. Well, if we pull the word apart just for fun, because this is the way I like to do vocabulary, we have the root in there, ped, which you probably know means foot, and you can think of other words that have that root. You may not recognize that sesqui is actually a prefix. It's an unfamiliar prefix, but it means half again as much. And the only really common word you might have run into, sesquicentennial, which would be 150 years. And then we've got two endings on there, the AL and the IAN together, suffix. And if you think of other things that end in IAN, you may think of something like a Martian or an Indian or Carolinian and Antiquarian, etc. And that obviously is a living being. So we've got something about a living being, something about a foot. And in this case, the foot is actually the measurement of foot. And then you've got half again as much. So we've got 18 inches of something. And a sesquipedalian is somebody, if anybody's old enough to remember William F. Buckley, this was his obituary in the New York Times, and they used the word sesquipedalian. It's a person who uses long words when they could use short words. And he was a classic sesquipedalian. So a sesquipedalian might use a word such as sesquipedalian. So now that we're thinking about how does a good reader read a multi-syllable word, an unfamiliar multi-syllable word, what do we see when we go into the classrooms and see people teaching reading multi-syllable words? Well, we see rules. We see lots of focus in the rules on consonants. So these were some random rules we pulled off out of programs or off the internet about reading multi-syllable words. And you'll see we break between two consonants. When two consonants are together, keep blends and consonants. Consonant, consonant, consonant shows up in all the rules. Yet what does every syllable have to have in it? It has to have a vowel sound. So the base of a syllable is actually a vowel sound, and usually there'll be a vowel spelling. English, no rule is forever is completely constant, but most of the time you will have a vowel spelling for that vowel sound. So we also see people teach syllable types, and syllable types we think are great for teachers to know about. Teachers do need to know about the syllable types. And syllable types give you a clue, a visual clue to how the vowel might be pronounced. But you'll notice I say might be. The syllable rules are not consistent once you get to multi-syllable words. In single syllables, they tend to be pretty consistent. But if you're trying to use them to read multi-syllable, they can flex around on you a little bit. And so they, for students, that might not be the most efficient way for them to read multi-syllable words. We see other rules that focus, as we said, on the vowels and the consonants and where do you divide. And what happens when you have two vowels separated by one consonant? Well, sometimes you divide after the first vowel, and sometimes you divide after the consonant. So you might read robin. Is it robin or robin? You don't know if you don't know the word. So this is where the syllable rules can get you into a little trouble. And if you start thinking about dividing between the letters, consonants, and vowels, you get all of these kind of rules. And I don't know about you, but I can't hold all these rules in my head. And I don't think anyone looking at sesquipedalian thought, okay, we've got C, VC, CVV, CC, VVV, CCVV. Okay, now I know where to divide it. That is not how a good reader reads an unfamiliar multisyllable word. So what do we recommend for students when reading multisyllable words that are unfamiliar? I'm going to show you a video before I tell you what we do. And because before we talk about what we actually do, we need to make sure that students are ready to learn about multisyllable words. And I'm going to show you a video of my business partner, Linda Farrell. This is from a series that we did with WETA Reading Rockets. And these videos are available on their website. If you go to Reading Rockets, or if you just Google Reading Rockets. This one is from episode 6. We're going to see 2 portions of it during our session this morning. But Linda is working, with Xavier, grade 3, and she's going to be just making sure before she actually works with having him read multisyllable words that he has the prerequisite skills in place to be ready to use this technique. So let's see if we can get video to work for us this morning.
Michael, we're not hearing the sound.
Oh dear. Okay.
So if you can stop, I just want to make sure that that setting is still there at the bottom, or you said it was at the top to share your computer sound.
It is clicked.
Okay.
Let us go over here and see if we need to click something over here.
Of course, it worked when we practiced.
Yeah, it did. Well, let's go back and. Are you hearing it now?
No. Is the sound up on your video there to the right?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm hearing it.
Hmm.
I wonder if I take myself out for a second and see. Did that change anything?
No, it didn't.
Okay. I am so sorry, guys.
I apologize too.
I'm gonna click it again. Share computer sound. That's the one I'm clicking, right?
Mm-hmm. And it should be checked.
Yes, it is checked.
Mm-hmm.
In Calvert County, Maryland. She'll be helping him learn how to read multi-syllable words.
I'm going to have you read some nonsense words. They all have short vowels. So could you just read these 3 nonsense words?
Nad, nath, neth.
Good. All right. What are these 3?
Zib, zid, zash.
This is pretty easy, isn't it? Yeah. This is too easy. We're done with that one.
Miss Farrell now knows Xavier can read one-syllable words with short vowels. Next, she checks to make sure he knows what a syllable is, because breaking long words into syllables is the key to the strategy she'll be teaching him.
And I just remembered something. I have to make sure you know what a syllable is. Okay, so look at me. My name is Linda. It has 2 syllables in it. Linda. Linda. Okay, so what's your name?
Xavier.
How many syllables in your name?
4.
Okay, let's stop them.
Xavier. Xavier.
You got it. How many syllables in computer?
Computer. 3.
Yes, you've got it. So you know what a syllable is. All right, because That's really important if we're going to read these big words. So if I look at this word and I want to know how to read that, the first thing I have to do is figure out how many syllables are in it. And I can do that by figuring out what the vowels are. Do you know what the vowel letters are?
A, E, I, O, U.
You got it. Those are the vowel letters.
Okay, so what you saw there was Linda checking in to see if, before having Xavier read unfamiliar multi-syllable words, can he read single-syllable nonsense words easily and accurately? He didn't have to sound them out. He just could look at them and read them. She made sure that he could hear syllables in spoken words, that he could segment, and then of course he needs to be able to blend, because if you're going to read, you're going to blend the syllables. But she worked with him to make sure that he could orally recognize and hear and blend and segment syllables, and that he could accurately read single syllable nonsense words. And the reason that we have nonsense words rather than just whole real words is many, and if not most, syllables in multi-syllable words are actually nonsense words. And if you have to struggle to read them by sounding out each sound, you are not going to be able to read a multi-syllable word. So if we were reading abscond, you need to easily be able to read the chunk ab and the chunk scond if you're going to read the whole word abscond. So Linda checked to make sure that, and the other thing that she checked was to make sure that he knew what the vowel letters were, because he's going to need to look at the word and recognize how many vowels are in the word, where they are, whether they're together or apart. You'll see that in a moment. But he needs to easily recognize visually what the vowel letters are. And when we work with strugglers, often we're surprised to find out that even older struggling students don't have that knowledge automatized. They have to stop and think, oh, what are the vowel letters? And you can't, you need to be automatic with that. We're going to start with thinking about reading single syllable words accurately. And we can start teaching students to read multi-syllable words, unfamiliar multi-syllable words, as with short vowels, as soon as they can read single syllable words, real or nonsense, with short vowels. You don't have to wait till a student has been exposed to all of the phonics patterns to start reading multi-syllable words. So we can actually teach a kindergartner to read some multi-syllable words if they can read 3 CVC words even without blends. There are a few, not a ton of words, but there's some that they can read. So we can introduce that concept as early as kindergarten for some students, and certainly by first grade, once you have blends, and digraphs, you have opened up a lot of words, because about 50% of the words in English, 50% of syllables, excuse me, in English, close to 50%, are the short vowel pattern. So there's lots of words, and we'll actually look at a few in a moment. Okay. I think I just lost my place here. Give me 1 second. Yes. Technology. So this is how we approach teaching multi-syllable words. We first teach students to be automatic decoders at the short vowel pattern, as I just said. And once they can read those single syllable, real and nonsense short vowel words or syllables, then we can teach them to start reading multi-syllable words at that pattern. We don't wait until they've been exposed to the rest of the vowel patterns. Once they can do that, and then we would move to teaching. We like to do R controlled next, but some people like to do silent E, it doesn't matter. But once you're ready to move to a new vowel pattern, you make sure that the students can accurately and automatically read single syllable with that vowel pattern. So they could read car, her, first, etc. And then you can do multi-syllable words with both the short vowel pattern and the R control pattern. Next, you might add long vowels, the single vowel letter at the end of a syllable spelling the long vowel sound. That's the open syllable, you may know. You can do the silent E. But again, your students need to practice and be automatic with reading single syllable words with these patterns before they read multi-syllable words with these patterns. That's the key. Because if you're struggling to read the single syllable, you're going to struggle to read the multi-syllable. Vowel teams would be another pattern that you would add, and then practice that in single syllable, then multi-syllable, and then lastly, any other vowel sounds or patterns that need to be learned. So how do we teach students to read multi-syllable words without a lot of rules? We teach them to look for the vowels, because as we said, every vowel spoken syllable has to have a vowel sound, and therefore most every printed syllable is going to have a vowel spelling, and that's how we're going to chunk the words. So before the students are ready to do that, they need to know that every spoken syllable has a vowel sound, and that most every written syllable is going to have vowel letters to spell that sound. They need to know what the vowel letters are so they can see them easily. They also need to, when appropriate, need to learn about why is a vowel at the end of a word. It's always a vowel at the end of the word, and it sometimes can be in a syllable. And lastly, they need to know that U, when it's right after the letter Q, is no longer functioning as a vowel, and so you would not count that in a word with QU. So in sesquipedalian, you did not count that U as a separate syllable because it's not spelling a vowel sound. So the key is that we teach students to answer 4 questions when approaching an unfamiliar multi-syllable word. First question is, how many vowel letters are in the word? And we have students can just show that with their fingers if we're doing this whole group. Are they together or apart? And the students can show together or apart without having to say anything. Do you see a silent E at the end? They can give a thumbs up if they do. They can give a thumbs down if they don't. And then that leads us to the last and most important question, which is how many syllables are in that word? And again, the students can show with their fingers how many syllables the word has. And then they will read each syllable, blend the syllables, and read the whole word. Our goal is to automatize this in the student's brain so they don't have to consciously go think these questions. But at first, we have to guide them through the process of doing it until it becomes an automatic process that they just look at the word and do like you probably did with sesquipedalian and just do all that without conscious effort. Okay, so let's start with thinking about reading multi-syllable words with short vowels. So we have some words that we could read like napkin in kindergarten, fantastic. Even a kindergartner could read that one. And then if you bring in blends, establishment and bath and digraphs, bathtub and establishment. So when we first start with the short vowels to make life easier to get things started, we only ask 3 of the 4 questions if the students don't know about the silent E pattern yet, because that question about the silent E only comes into play once words start having the silent E syllable pattern in them. So we can start with just 3 questions. How many vowel letters do you see? Are they together or apart? And then that tells us how many syllables you see in the word. If you're working with older students who already have been exposed to the silent E pattern and may encounter it in their everyday reading, you can start that question even though the words you're going to practice this technique with will not have the silent E pattern. It gets them used to thinking about looking for it. We will not teach students rules, the typical rules that you see for dividing words into syllables. We're going to teach them to ask these questions, look for the vowels. Are they together or apart? Do you see a silent E? How many syllables? And then read each syllable and blend to read the whole word. So because of that, students, at the beginning, we're going to have students actually physically divide the word into syllables. Because there are no rules, as long as the syllables are readable, we don't really care how the student divides the syllables up. So admonish, we could divide as A-D, M-O-N-I-S-H, or we could divide it as A-D, M-O-N-I-S-H, and we can read the word either way, admonish or admonish. Now, if a student were to read admonish, because they might know about that open syllable pattern, the one vowel spelling a long vowel sound at the end of the syllable, we would simply have them flex that middle syllable to a short vowel. This means that the students need to know what short vowel sounds are and what long vowel sounds are without having to struggle to think about it. Now, the last example we have up here, ADMONISH, I can predict that might be a little difficult for a student to read because DM is not a common, it doesn't exist as a final blend in a syllable in English, and ADMA would be hard for them to read. And in that case, I would encourage the student to shift the M over to the middle syllable before trying to read the word. So sometimes we do help them with their syllable division. In my experience, when students have practiced the single syllable pattern, they've read it to where they're automatic and easily read that, their natural instinct when dividing a word is to divide it by the pattern that they've already practiced seeing in single syllable, and they don't very often do odd divisions because they're just in the habit of seeing what's an appropriate division by seeing it in single syllable words. A rule you might teach, because this is pretty foolproof, is if you've got two consonants next to each other, you can divide between them and you just don't pronounce it twice. You only pronounce it in the first syllable or in the second syllable. Another you might teach is keep your digraphs together, because we don't want to split the digraphs because that would change the sounds. But of course in English there are always exceptions. So we have shepherd, which used to be a compound word, sheep herd, which made more sense, but now it's shepherd, but it looks like it could be a PH digraph in the middle. We'll teach students to flex when that doesn't work. Okay. So we talked about the ADM would not be easy to read. If a student were to write admonish and divide it into just two syllables, we would need to remind them that they need to have a syllable. Each syllable that's separated from other syllables will count as each vowel will count as its own syllable. And so the word admonish, you have three vowels. They are all apart. Therefore, you're going to have three syllables, and they would need to come up with a better division. And the same if they put the second vowel in the middle syllable. So here's how the process works. Student looks at the word establish and reads the steam, which would be a classic student guess, because that was a word they had in their vocabulary recently, and they're not sure how to attack an unfamiliar multi-syllable word, so they guess. Well, we're going to, error correction will be that we would ask them first, how many vowel letters do you see? And they would show us 3 with their fingers. How many vowels, are the vowels together or apart? And they show all of them are apart. How many syllables? 3. Then we have the students on a piece of paper or a whiteboard draw 3 lines for each of the 3 syllables that they see in the word, and then they divide the word on the lines. So we get ESTABLISH. They might keep the blend together and have just E in the first syllable. That would work because you could still read the word. And we can go, remember, we're not doing rules. Then we have the student, when we're first doing this process, we want students to recognize that they can read each syllable individually, regardless of the fact of where they are in the word. So we would have them read the syllables out of order. So we might say, read the middle syllable, tab, read the last syllable, lish, now read the first syllable, s, now read the whole word, all the syllables in order, s, tab, lish, and then finally read blend to read the whole word, establish. And that just gets students to recognize that once a syllable is divided, it can be read by itself. Once they've gotten used to this process, you don't need to include that step. That's just an awareness at the beginning that we want to teach. Now, this whole process that I just talked you through, and you're going to see Linda do it here in a moment with a student, is a starting point. We want to get this automatized in the students' brains so that they don't have to consciously and physically separate out the syllables, read each syllable, and then blend it. We want them to kind of do all of that mentally in their head very quickly, and then they can read unfamiliar multi-syllable words. But if they're struggling with a word, we can always step back and say, well, how many syllables do you see in the word? If they struggle answering that question, then we can step back another step and say, how many vowels, together or apart? Do you see a silent E? Now how many syllables? So you can reintroduce the strategy as an error correction technique when necessary once the kids have started automatizing. So something is blocking my screen here. Give me 1 second here. Okay. So we had the word inhabit. And I want you guys to do this one with me. And if you have a piece of scratch paper, you can, when we draw the lines, you can do that and divide the syllables. So we have, I should not have told you the word. Excuse me, I just made a mistake there because I just told you the word. Pretend I didn't read the word to you. I say, we're going to read this word. So I first ask you, how many vowel letters? And you would raise your fingers to show me that you see 3. Are they together or apart? And again, you can show me either apart, together, or some of both, but we see here all apart. So that will show us how many syllables we think. So the next question is, how many syllables? And you can use your fingers again to show me 3. Now you draw your lines. And the next step is to divide the word into 3 syllables, 1 syllable on each line. And I think you could easily divide this 2 different ways and still be able to read the word accurately. And our next step is to read each syllable out of order, because this is the first time you guys are doing this. So everybody read the middle syllable, ha. Everybody read the last syllable, bit. Everybody read the first syllable, in. Now touch and read them in order, in, ha, bit. Now read the whole word. And I like to have my students trace their finger across under the word left to right as they read all of the syllables. So that's the process. Now, since I can't do that with you guys interactively, it's great that I have a video of Linda with Xavier, and you'll get to see Xavier, sound permitting, work with.
Every syllable has a vowel in it. So in order to figure out how many syllables there are, I have to count the vowels. So can you tell me how many vowel letters do you see in that word?
2.
Yep. Are they together or apart?
Apart.
They are apart. If I have 2 vowels letters and they're apart, I'm going to have 2 syllables. So I'm going to draw 2 lines right here. And I have to have a vowel letter in every syllable. So can you break that word into 2 syllables for me? Yeah. Now this is a nonsense word, so we're going to read it. What's the first syllable?
Jod. Pum.
What's the word?
Jopum.
So read it again.
Jod. Pum.
And the word is?
Jod. Pum.
That's a nonsense word. I just made it up. I literally just made that word up right now. I've never even seen that word before. But we now know what to do if we have a word that we don't know. So let's try another word.
Volcano.
Oh, you got the first 2 syllables. You got the first syllable right. How many vowels do you see?
3.
Together or apart?
Apart.
Okay. Read each syllable.
Volcanic.
What's that middle syllable? Touch each syllable and read it.
Volcan.
Wait, what's that?
Ick.
Yeah, let's do it again.
Volcanic. Volcanic.
You just read volcanic. So what are the syllables in volcanic?
Oh.
Those are the vowels. What's the first syllable?
Volcanic.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm erasing this. Okay, so say volcanic.
Volcanic.
How many syllables in volcanic?
3.
Okay, I would like you to please see if you can spell each syllable in volcanic. So draw 3 lines right up here. Do you think you can spell volcanic? What's the first syllable? What's that syllable? What'd you just spell?
Vol.
Okay, next one. Now write the whole word. Oh my gosh, you just spelled volcanic. You couldn't even read it, and now you can spell it. That is pretty good. Do you want me to see if I can get a really hard one for you? How many vowels?
Excuse me. I touched something I shouldn't have touched.
Every syllable
I'm
has
so sorry
a
about
vowel
this.
in it.
I'm still learning technology here.
I.
We're going to back up just a little bit there.
Okay, here we go. Let's try this one. How many vowels do you see?
O. A. I. E.
Okay, so how many? You can underline them if you want. Oh, why don't you start here and go this way? Yeah. Okay, so how many?
4.
Together, apart?
Apart.
Okay. Do you want to try to read it without breaking it into syllables? Try it.
Accomplishment.
What was the word?
Accomplishment.
It's accomplishment. You are right. We're going to do one more that is
Electrical. Electrical.
You got it. That was a good one to end on. High five. Yes.
Okay. Sorry about messing it up there. So let's take a moment here, and if there are any questions at this point, we'll take a minute here to see if I can answer anything.
Yes, I do have a few that have come in. So let me pull these over. Talk a little bit about the scope and sequence of teaching syllables. Why do you choose to do R controlled after close?
That's our personal preference here at Readsters. We think that going from one vowel in the not at the end, which is the short vowel pattern, to one vowel followed by an R is a very simple step, as opposed to most often people tend to go to the silent E pattern next after short vowel, because it's a very stable pattern. But the problem with the silent E pattern is that students have to see 2 vowel letters not next to each other and read one sound. And they have to look ahead in the word in a way that they may not have developed completely. So we just get more words. We get a whole nother set of vowel sounds and pattern under our belts before the silent E pattern if we do that next. It's just makes sense to us. I don't think there's any research to support that or anything, but it's just our preference.
Thank you. Any tricks for students who really have trouble hearing syllables? using a phonemic awareness program in kindergarten, once they move to individual phonemes, the children have a lot hard time then hearing syllables.
Yes, the syllable sound confusion. We do find that yeah, students can master oral syllables, blending, segmenting, even we like to do manipulation at the oral syllable level just so that they learn about that manipulation process with syllables, which is easier than individual sounds. But often, yes, once they get to thinking about phonemes and they're working with phonemes, they sort of lose what the heck is a syllable. And so for those students, we actually do some practice with, we go back and we review syllable blending and segmenting, and then we have them focus on what's the first syllable, what's the last syllable, and then move to what's the first sound in that same word and what's the last sound. It's simply a matter of getting students to remember and understand the teacher vocabulary that we're using. What's a sound and what's a syllable? It's just a conceptual thing that you just have to practice it a little bit, and they oh yeah, okay, now I remember what a syllable is, now I remember what a sound is, and I can, you know, keep them straight. I think that's what you were asking about.
Thank you. You had, when they broke a word up into syllables, you had them read those syllables out of order. So can you talk a little bit about that? Someone had said it seems like there'd be a little dissonance in that and then blending it in order.
Understand. Again, we only do that the first few times, maybe even only the first couple times that we do this. And that's just to make sure that the students understand that they can read each syllable individually. Because they're learning that, okay, we can pull this long string of letters apart into those chunks, and the chunks are easy to read. And then all we have to do is put them together. We would never leave a word where we didn't go back, read them in order, and read the whole word. So it's just a little, it's a nuance, but when you work with strugglers, sometimes you have to kind of make sure that they get all the concepts. And most of the time, they're not going to do that, just at the very beginning. Okay.
Thank you.
Shall we move on? And then if there'll be time for some more questions. Thank you so much. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, we have to deal with the schwa, because in English, once you get to multi-syllable words, most multi-syllable words are going to have a schwa sound in them. And it is critical that students understand what the schwa sound is, that they can recognize it, and it is challenging, especially for struggling readers and spellers. So I'm going to quickly teach you about the schwa. So everybody, this symbol, this looks like an upside down E, is the symbol for a vowel sound that we call schwa. Everybody, what does this what do we call this symbol? And you guys say schwa. Now, the schwa sound is a lazy vowel sound. It's a vowel sound that doesn't quite get into gear, somebody once told me. Somebody else once told me it's a vowel sound having a bad day. Just that's why it's upside down. It just can't get out of bed. It's kind of So the schwa sound is a lazy sound, almost like a short U sound, but not quite enough energy to be a short U. It's not it's So everybody say the schwa sound. Now, if I didn't know English very well, but I knew how to read, and I came across this word, which we all know, but I didn't know this word, I would apply the strategies that we just learned, and I'd count my vowels, figure out how many syllables, and I would read the word like this: wag on, wag on. But we know that's not how that word's read, and that sounds kind of odd. We all know the word is read as wagon. So that second vowel, the O, does not pronounce the short O sound ah, as in on. It spells the sound, the schwa sound, So I need to flex that second vowel letter to the schwa sound, to read the word as wagon. So there's our schwa in wagon. Let's read another word. If I read it with the way it looks, if I didn't know the word, I would read sandal, sandal. But you guys know that we don't read this word sandal. How do we normally read it? Or how do we say it? Sandal. And so the second A, once again, the second vowel is a schwa. Here's some more words with schwa. Along. See if you can find the schwa in along. Yes, the A at the beginning spells the schwa. An A at the beginning and end of multi-syllable words often does spell the schwa sound. It's not a short A or a long A in this word along. It's not along, it's along. Problem. See if you can find the schwa in problem. The E, rapid. The I, dragon. There's that O again. Now, U in short vowel pattern, when it spells the schwa, is not really a problem, because if you pronounce it as a short U, that's close enough to the schwa sound that students don't have a problem with that one. What I just modeled was a very quick version of a lesson on tuning kids into recognizing and hearing the schwa in words. And the third step would be the you do, where the students each take a turn with this list of words. They read the word with short vowels, all short vowels, and then they read it properly. And then they figure out which letter spells the schwa sound. They circle it, and we all agree on that. If you're interested in this lesson, we have a packet of it that I can share with you for free. My email is michael@reedsters.com. Just email me and ask for the schwa lesson packet. And if you have questions, as long as we're here, that's my email, michael@reedsters.com. I'm happy to answer any questions later in the day or next week or whenever. So once students can read that short vowel pattern, the closed syllable pattern, with one vowel spelling in not at the end, spelling the short vowel sound, or spelling a schwa, it opens up a ton of academic words that students can read. I'm going to just quickly show, these are in the slides in the handout, but just there are a lot of math words they can read, such as mathematics. There are social studies words such as amendment and politics. There are geography words such as continent and continental. And how cool is it for a first grader to read continental, subtropical? There's our word volcanic, and I don't know why it's capitalized there. Science words, meniscus. I had to look up meniscus, but now I know what it means and I can read it. I'm going to skip questions right at the moment and do our next piece, and then we'll come back if there's time. I gotta be mindful of time here. So the deal with the schwa is when students are reading like wagon, what we want to encourage the students to do and get them used to doing is, if wagon doesn't sound right, flex, play with the vowel sounds, we call it flexing, and flex to see if you can get a pronunciation. And some of you may have tried that with sesquipedalian, because it could be sesquipedalian. And you would have accurately decoded the word as sesquipedalian if you didn't know that it was pronounced sesquipedalian, but you didn't read some other word. You got as close as you could in the pronunciation. Sometimes if the word is not in the students' oral vocabulary, if they've not heard the word, they may get stuck and not be able to figure out what is the correct pronunciation. But as long as they're getting the sounds as accurately as they could be by the print, then we can guide them to flexing it and then teach them the pronunciation. So if we read petition as petition, if the student read petition, I can guide them to flex that first vowel in the first syllable to the long E sound, to the schwa sound, not the long E, they read the long E, to the schwa sound, and the student goes, oh, petition. Now, if it's in their vocabulary, they'll recognize it. If it's not in their oral vocabulary, they'll say petition with a question mark, and you'll say, yes, that's how we pronounce it. Everyone read petition. and that's the first time they get the pronunciation in their brain. So flexing is, rather than teaching a bunch of rules, we teach the students, if it doesn't sound like a word you know, play with the vowel sounds, flex, and see if you can hit on a word you do know. If you still can't, then you need to look it up or ask someone how to pronounce the word. Let's watch a lesson. This is me teaching many years ago. You'll be able to tell by the changing color of my beard. I did this video as a series of some videos for Louisa Moats, and I'm teaching 4 students. We're going to pick up in the middle of a schwa lesson, but you're going to get to see a couple of kids learn how to flex when working with multi-syllable words. So again, let's hope technology plays properly for us.
Wagon.
Wag. So what I thought we'd do now is we do a little thing where we're going to look at words, and if you need, you can use your syllable boards like I did to break the word up and read it, but if you can read it without, you don't need to. So I'm going to give you each 2 cards, and we'll take turns. And what I'm going to ask you to do, I'll show you. I'm going to do one, and my word is salad. And I don't need my syllable words to read it, so I won't do that. But my job is to find the schwa in salad. And I hear the schwa in salad right there, that second A in salad. So I'm going to put my little marker right over the vowel that's spelling the schwa in salad. Okay, so Bianca, would you like to lead us off on this one?
Okay. Signal.
Signal. Can you find a schwa in signal?
The A.
The A.
Signal.
And can you say that schwa sound for me? Yeah, a nice lazy vowel. Very nice job. Ariana, would you like to try your word?
Falcon.
Falcon.
The O.
Okay, John, you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adopt.
Okay. It could be adopt.
Adopt.
Ah. Okay, good. Good flexing. That's exactly what we do when we're not sure. When it doesn't sound right, it comes out. You did a great job of flexing those sounds. And you flexed that ah to what?
To
And that's the what sound?
the schwa.
Schwa. Now you see why we want to learn about the schwa? Because you were able to use that schwa word to... Okay, Stephanie hasn't had one yet. Would you like to do one, Stephanie?
Come on.
Come on. It could be come on. Does that sound... That sounds like 2 words, though. And this is 1 word. So let's try flexing it. You want to do it on the syllable boards? Where are you going to split that? How many syllables do you have? Count your vowels. 2. Okay. Write your first syllable on this board for me, please. Okay, what's the last letter in this word?
Word.
On your card, what's the last letter? Is that an M or an N? Oh. Okay, check your spelling. M. O. What do you need to change?
No.
Yeah, take that one out and probably erase the other and move it over. Okay, now you got your 2 syllables in your word. Okay, so read this syllable.
Come.
Calm.
Mon.
Mon. Calm mon. Doesn't sound right. Shall we try flexing with a schwa? And schwa most often occurs in the second syllable. Not always, but it often occurs in the second syllable. So try the schwa on that syllable. What would this syllable be with the schwa sound? Okay, let's do touch and say. This is Say the schwa sound. Good, you put your marker there. So now can you read
Mun.
mun? Try to read your word now. Calm. Mun.
Come. Wagon.
Okay, so you might observe there the student John was able to flex on his own. The student Stephanie, I would say actually she was not quite ready for this schwa lesson. She was still struggling a little bit at the single syllable level, but in reality, in real life, we often have students that aren't quite in the right group, and you know, you got to see me try to work with her. Just quickly on schwa, it can change where the schwa is in a word. And schwa is based on the stress. One syllable gets full stress, other syllables don't get full stress, and those often turn to schwa. So if we read, we can read the word record two different ways. We can read it as I just did, record, or we can read it as record. And we have a schwa that changes the part of speech of that word. Present and present, conduct and conduct, convert and convert. So that's just kind of a fun thing about schwa. We need to talk about reading multi-syllable words with the silent E, because that's when we would add our third question, do you see a silent E? And you can just, the students can show a thumbs up or a thumbs down for that. And that leads, so we have the four questions to get to how many. So far, we have the word at the top of the slide. How many vowel letters do you see? And you would show me 4. Together or apart, you would show me that they're all apart. Do you see a silent E? You would say, yes, I see one by giving me a thumbs up. How many syllables? And you would show me with your fingers 3, because obviously you have taught the students in single syllable that the silent E, the A and the E in this word, or whatever the vowel with the consonant, with the silent E, spells one vowel sound. Therefore, those 2 vowel letters, even though they're not next to each other, spell one vowel sound. That's one syllable. They draw lines, write the syllables, and read each syllable, then read the whole word. Couple thoughts on silent E. Silent E at the end of a multi-syllable word can spell the long vowel sound, and there's a list there, subscribe, demonstrate, but sometimes it can spell the schwa. So instead of palace, you'd have to flex that silent E, spelling to a schwa, and read palace. It's not pirate, it's pirate. So what we do is we teach first with words where the silent E pattern spells the long vowel sound, and then we do another lesson after students have gotten used to looking for the silent E and reading it as a long vowel, where they have to flex it to a schwa. And then we do a lesson with mixed. So this word would, if we went through it, I'm going to move us along because time here, but if we went through the process, you might have to have the students flex that last syllable. Instead of 8, it's not liter 8, it's flex it to a schwa, literate. Another thing that happens with the silent E sometimes is when students start looking for silent E in multi-syllable words, they forget that it's only at the end of the multi-syllable word. And so they might look at a word like electric and give you a thumbs up for that silent E because they see the ELE as a silent E syllable, but it's not. So you just remind them silent E will be at the end of the word. Do not use compound words when you're teaching that silent E lesson because you will get a silent E pattern not at the end in compound words. But by the time you get here, students should have read enough of these silent E single syllable words to recognize them already in a word like front, etc. But keep them out of your lesson at first. And then, of course, they have to learn to recognize when there's a base word that's a silent E pattern with a suffix added to it. So we would not use those in our initial silent E multi-syllable words. And when you get to where you have a base word with a suffix added that you still see the silent E pattern, you could add the question, do you see a suffix? Now look at the base word and figure out the base word, then add the suffix. Lastly, reading multi-syllable words with vowel teams. This is where the together or apart question that we've asked all along. You'll notice up until now, the vowels have always been apart. Even in a silent E, they're apart. The silent E works with the other vowel letter to make one syllable. Now this question makes sense, because in a word like this word, you would say how many vowel letters. If you count all the vowel letters, and remember that Y could also be a vowel letter, then you have together or apart. Some are together, some are apart. This is where that question now matters. Do you see a silent E? No, you don't. Now, how many syllables? Well, you know that the A and the I are next to each other. They're going to spell one vowel sound. You've got the O and the Y next to each other, and they're going to spell one vowel sound. And you draw your lines, etc. So now students can read all kinds of words. And here's some examples. And let me see. Yes, quickly, let me see how much time. You know what, guys, I'm going to move us into the spelling just to make sure that we get that covered. And then that should leave us some time for questions at the end before we have to wrap up. So we're going to start thinking about, you saw a little bit of spelling of multi-syllable words with Linda working with Xavier. Now you're going to see Linda work with a student named Matt. This is a video that was taken quite a while back, and this was an impromptu teaching on Linda's part. But it's just a really good video of getting a sense of how one goes about spelling a multi-syllable word, and the importance of thinking about syllables and spelling syllables, not the whole multi-syllable word. So this was a student who knew that he was struggling with learning to read. He was homeschooled. His mother had brought him to this homeschooling parents session that Linda was doing. Linda had met the student, Matt, in the morning, but hadn't really worked with him. So she initially starts playing with him impromptu to just, he agreed to volunteer. She's not putting him on the spot. And her mother had said that he was a poor speller, so Linda thought maybe she might be able to use him to demonstrate. So.
Hey, you want to try another one? Sure. Okay, I'm going to give you this one. Kun, fed, ut.
Kun, fed,
That was close, but you know what? That's because you say the word. How do you say the word?
Confederate.
Okay, so let's do it. Kun, fed, ut. Okay, now say the word.
Confederate.
Okay, you want to? Okay, tell me the syllable. What's the word we're dealing with? Indemnity was the first one. What was the second one? Was it indemnity or Confederate?
Confederate.
There you go. Okay.
Confederate.
Very, very good. You really broke that one down. Okay. Now, in order to spell this, because you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to work with you to spell this. Think you can spell Confederate?
C-E-T-E-D-U.
Did you hear that? Okay. A lot of guessing there, right? You're not real sure, right? Okay. I'm going to help. You guys want to see this? Do you want to see me teach him to spell Confederate? Okay. I think I can. I haven't got quite enough information, but I think I can. What's the first syllable?
Kun.
Let's talk about the sounds in kun. Kun. Now, how would you usually spell kun?
C-U-N.
That's how you usually would spell it. But guess what? We're going to, it could be an A, it could be an A, but it's an O, okay? Now, that's often how we spell kun at the beginning of a word. So now, what's this syllable?
Kun.
And how do I spell it?
C-O-N.
What are the sounds?
Kun. Kun.
Good. Now, one of those doesn't sound like it should. Which sound isn't? Yeah, so we're going to just have to learn that one by heart, okay? So that's kun. Our next syllable is fed, all right? Sounds?
Fed. Fed.
Good. How do I spell fed?
F-E-D.
4. You got that one. Okay. So, what's this one?
Confederate.
How do I spell
E-R.
Okay, we're going to get an E and an R because I need another E. Let me get an E and an R. So that one's and I'm going to run out of room, aren't I? Okay, should we spell it E-R-E or E-R?
E-R.
E-R, that would be a good idea. I got that one wrong. Now, we've got the last one, ut.
U-T.
Okay, stretch the sounds. Ut. It should be U-T, but you're not going to believe this. It's A-T. I need a longer board. E. I need another E. Okay, so, now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to use this board, excuse me, because you're just not going to believe what you can do. Okay, so we got 4 syllables, right? What's this one?
Con.
How do I spell it?
C-O-N.
And what are the sounds? And which one did I have to remember in that one?
O.
Oh, what's this?
Fed.
Good. And how do I spell that?
F-E-D.
How do I spell it?
E-R. A-T-E.
Good. Should I put a heart over that E? That's a pretty hard one, huh? Okay. So is everybody, when you want to take a picture of this map in your mind, any of those hard for you? Okay. Without looking over here, tell me what the syllables are.
Confederate.
Okay, good. How do I spell this one?
A-T-E.
How do I spell this one?
F-E-D.
How do I spell this one?
E-R.
How do I spell this one?
C-O-N.
You are so good. Okay, now, tell me how I spell this one.
A-T-E.
Good. Can you spell it backwards?
E-T-A.
What's this one?
E-R.
How do I spell it backwards?
R-E.
Okay.
F-E-D.
Backwards?
D-E-F.
This one?
C-O-N-N-O-F.
Okay.
Or C.
Good. You got it. Now, Tina, I need you to check. Okay? We're going to spell this backwards. The whole word, Confederate. You ready?
E-T-A-R-E-D-E-F-N-O-C.
Okay. Frontwards. Always end frontwards. Okay.
C-O-N-F-E-D-E-R-A-T-E.
Now, write it. I'll tell you. I promise you. Good job. Now I'm going to take the felts down, and can you write it all as one word? I want to show you guys the whole process. Got an eraser right there? This is like, do you feel like this is a miracle? I mean, you did great, didn't you? Mm-hmm. You didn't know you were such a good speller, did you? And you are a good speller.
Okay. Now, one thing I want to point out is this was an impromptu lesson. If we were teaching Matt to spell the word Confederate, if we were doing it in a lesson, we would actually show him the word Confederate, so he would get an initial mental imprint of it as we worked through spelling syllable by syllable, because we don't want him to have to guess the spelling. And you heard him, having to guess a couple things. And even when he was spelling syllable by syllable, which is the key, we all have to spell syllable by syllable. So the key to the spelling thing is to get the students to think in terms of what are the syllables I hear, and then spell each syllable. And then some syllables are going to spell themselves like fed, and then some are going to have schwa, like the ATE and the CON. And that we all had to memorize that to spell Confederate, that it's AT.